In this lesson, we're going to talk about some of the preparation, some of the new techniques for pattern Toi-Gye. So, if you recall, the starting position for pattern Jungun was like this. So, making a fist and having the left hand cupping it, just like this with feet together. The starting position for pattern Toi-Gye is exactly the same. So again, your fists, your hands are not out like this. They're not way down here like this. Just in front of your body, just like this. So this is the starting position for pattern Toi-Gye. It's very similar to pattern Hyo when your hands were up here, except now they're dropped down low in front of your body. So it's the difference between this and this. So pattern Jungun and pattern Toi-Gye both start from here. So no change. Now when you're doing the pattern, the move sequence is such that we go 1, 2, and then move number 3 is new. This is a move that students haven't seen before, and it causes a lot of confusion. A lot of schools teach this incorrectly. So what's actually happening here is you're doing a low block with the left arm, and you're doing an outward forearm side block with the right arm. So what happens is you want to keep this block fairly tight in. You don't want it way out here wide like this. So after you've done the fingertip low straight thrust and you come back to the center again, it's low block and outward forearm side block. Okay? So what happens is, as students start to widen this technique out, it keeps getting wider and wider and wider. If you were just to look at a picture of it in a book, it starts to look like something completely different, and students start to get the idea in their head that they're striking somebody behind them with a back fist here, and that's not what's happening. This is protecting in front. Low block and outward forearm side block is the technique. So that's move number 3 in pattern Toi-Gye. And you'll also perform it again, since the pattern repeats on the other side. It's also move number 6, where you come back to the center, you do it again on the other side. So now it's a right low block and a left outward forearm side block. So you are clearing the path in front of you when you come back to the center here and protecting. And this is basically the sister block or twin or companion block to one that you're going to see in a later pattern. There's another block that is very, very similar to this one, and that's going to be coming up when we get to red belt. But for now, what you need to know in Taekwondo is that similar blocks, similar techniques appear in nearby patterns within the pattern set. So if you do a particular technique here at blue belt, don't be surprised that something very similar to this appears at red belt. And that happens frequently in the ITF pattern set. Nearby patterns contain similar techniques. So this block here, this low block and outward forearm side block, that's what you're doing. It is a block. It is not an attack. Okay? And when you're looking at it from the side, this is what it looks like. Your hands should be here, both of them in front of you, not way out here and not over here like this. Just here. Outward forearm side block and low block is the correct technique. Now, also in pattern Toi-Gye, there's a move where you place your hands on your hips and you pivot, just like this. And students often ask, what am I doing with this technique? Is this an attack? Is it a block? Well, here in this case, it is just a posture. It is just a stance. You're not attacking or doing anything with this technique. You're simply pivoting with your hands on your hips and coming to this position here in preparation for the next movement in the pattern. So that's all that it is. It is just a posture. It's not an attack. It's not a block. So that is another technique that will appear in pattern Toi-Gye. In addition to that, we also have another new technique. Again, the reason why I put these in a separate video is because we don't practice any of these as part of foundation movements. For one reason or another, either because they don't lend themselves well to being done with a step and performed in rows and columns like we do our foundation movements, or because they're better practiced as training exercises, or because they don't need to be practiced at all outside of the pattern. But for one reason or another, they're techniques that we don't do as part of the foundation. So another one that appears is back fist, side strike, and low block in an L stance. So this technique here, whether you already know somebody is coming up from behind you and you want to do the technique, or whether you want to take a quick peek over the shoulder before you jump back, this technique here can be performed either with a slide step, or you can do a full jumping step back into it. So you can either go like this and slide step your way back, or you can actually pick your foot up and really jump into it and go backward. But the idea here is you're doing a back fist side strike, and you're doing a low block because there's still an opponent here in front of you. So you're protecting yourself in front and striking an opponent that is here behind you. You finish in an L stance. And this is the movement that will appear in the pattern. Now, some schools will teach it as back fist back strike. For this pattern, back fist side strike is even better because you want the extra reach. So with a back fist side strike, there's two advantages. You're going to be able to reach longer than you can like this. This gives you a longer reach, and it allows you to get around your opponent's guard. So if your opponent sets their guard in front of them like this, and you try to go like this, you're going to get wrecked on the guard. You're not going to get through the arms, right? Somebody's going to have their hands in front of them. You're going to be hitting their arms when you try to go up the middle. Back fist side strike allows you to come around the guard and strike the opponent in the temple. So you get past the guard and you come around and hit the opponent side of the head. So those are two advantages to using back fist side strike and low block as opposed to back fist back strike. So that's another technique that will appear in pattern Toi-Gye that you need to be familiar with. And then finally, we have the jumping low X block, or jumping X fist pressing block in an X stance. So this technique here, right after you've done this, the next technique is this. And then we come forward with the next block after. But this technique here, a lot of students ask, what is being done in this technique? What am I doing there? And some people describe it as a block, like somebody is attacking you and you're blocking, but that is nonsensical, because why would somebody attack me if I'm not there? And why would I be blocking an attack that I have to jump into? Right? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for somebody to attack this way and for me to jump all the way across to jump into an attack that I then have to block. Doesn't make any sense. What this technique is actually used for is an opponent that is injured, slumped over, right? What you're doing is you're actually jumping, pressing down on them to push them down, and then you're moving forward to deal with the next opponent, is what you're actually doing. So you are pushing on the person's neck, back, whatever. Imagine somebody that is slumped over, they're injured, so you're here, you're going to jump forward, you're shoving them down to the ground, and then you're moving forward to deal with the next opponent. That's what is actually happening with that technique. So those are some of the new techniques in preparation for pattern Tae-Gye, and in our next lesson we are going to be covering pattern Tae-Gye. So till then.